Well, welcome to this little 20-minute tutorial. It might be a little bit over 20 minutes actually, but it is kind of complementary to one of the creative kits I've put together at the studio. And this one is for glass mosaics. So before we get started on anything, please make sure you read over the instructions. I'm going to kind of go over everything in the video here, but one of the biggest things is the safety of this project, because we are using glass that has been cut so the edges are sharp. And even though if you realize you didn't cut yourself because you're not bleeding or anything, you may find that you've got some very fine, almost like paper cuts through like that very surface layer of your skin. And if you were, say, to spill a little vinegar or lemon juice on your fingers, you would definitely know it. So please be careful. If you have a pair of work gloves, gardening gloves to handle the glass, that works great. Otherwise, please be very careful. If you have an adult to help you, it does make everything a little bit easier. If you are an adult, just be mindful that, hey, we're working with some sharp stuff, and even if it's not a big piece, some of those tiny little flakes and the dust, you don't want to breathe it in, you don't want to get it stuck like a little sliver. It really hurts. I've had it happen. So definitely just take all those safety precautions. If you have a pair of safety glasses, that's even some extra precautionary measures you can take. So there we go, we have it. I think we're ready to go with all of our supplies and our project. If you don't have the kit that you've purchased from the studio, I will give you some recommendations that you'll be able to use and hopefully find most of the materials around your house or maybe one of the stores. So in your kit, I've got a nice big tile. I've got a bottle of Weld-Bond glue, and I've got a selection of glass right here in front of me on my kitchen table. I've got some tin foil pie plates that I have filled with the different colors and selection of glass that my kids and I did mosaics this evening. So I've got all of the colors separated, and you'll also have a pair of rubber gloves to help you apply grout. You'll have a sponge to help you with the grout, and you will have the grout itself in a little jar. So the first thing you want to do is kind of decide on what your design is going to be. A lot of the times I will kind of dump out my glass, separate it into colors, look at the shapes of glass, and sometimes that will give me some ideas or inspiration of what I could create with the shapes and colors that I do have. Otherwise, another great way to do it is, depending on your surface, you can design and draw an image right onto your surface. With the tiles that have been included with your package, a dry erase marker works great. So you can draw and design your own image right onto the tile. You can also use wood or a picture frame. I had some picture frames kicking around that we have used for various art projects, and you can get them right at a thrift store or dollar store. And these ones they're 4x6s, and they were like $1 each at our wonderful thrift store here in town. So if you have some leftover items and materials, that's a great way to keep using them, keep being creative. Glue them onto other surfaces, plant pots, bottles, jars, anything like that. Make some candle holders or make another mosaic. So if you're ready and you kind of want to have an idea that pops into your head, you're ready to start drawing. If you don't have an idea right away, that's okay. Give yourself some time, be patient, and it'll come. You've got lots of time. This is just kind of a quick mini lesson tutorial to get you started. So I'm going to do the same design that my oldest son did earlier today. And it's that Supreme S. I was telling him I used to draw this when I was younger and in elementary, junior high school, even high school probably. I think he was shocked when I knew it. So there I have my design kind of ready to go onto my tile. And if I don't like that, or I'm not happy with where it's placed, I can erase it and do it again. So that's pretty easy. Once you kind of know what you're going to be doing, you can pick your colors. There we go, just quick sketch that back on again. You don't have to worry about washing this off before you apply anything else either. It's going to all get covered up. So with your colors of glass, you can pick your colors and then you'll be able to kind of lay them out and give yourself a plan of what colors you would like to do. The grout in the kit is kind of a charcoal gray, so light colors would work great and dark colors would work great too. So depending on what kind of contrast that you prefer, they will both work. So you can lay out some pieces. You want to make sure when you're laying them out, you give yourself a little bit of space between each piece of glass. And then you can go from there. If your pieces are really big, or if they do have some stuff on them, it's probably dry erase marker too, so that's just gonna wipe and scrub off. There we go. So you can do all different kind of random things. I'm doing a little bit of that. I've got some nice green here. I'm going to use that green instead. There we go. Maybe do a yellow border. Flip them around, try some different directions. And if they are a little bit big or they're not fitting quite right, if you do have glass stuff at home, some wheel cutters work great. I happen to have a set of these because I've done quite a bit of mosaic and glass work. If not, if you have a big piece, take your piece, wrap it up into like a piece of cloth or a towel that isn't a good one, preferably. Make sure you have the help of an adult because there's a lot of safety issues with this one, just because we are using glass. Always make sure that you're handling glass really carefully. It's sharp. Even these little pieces are going to leave kind of like little paper cuts if you're using your bare fingers. If you have a pair of gloves, work gloves, rubber garden gloves, that would be perfect. I have a pair of gloves in the kit, and they're just the thin latex gloves, which would get cut up pretty quickly, but then they're better for applying the grout. But doing something like that, just be mindful that you are very, very careful of the sharp pieces of glass. Okay, so once you have that kind of all laid out, I'm not going to do this whole thing because I've got some right beside me that are ready to go at the different stages. So again, give yourself some time doing that step. And once you've got them all there, you can start gluing them down. So this one has a few more pieces that need to be glued down. Yes, it does. So I'm going to get that done, and then I'm going to show you the next step. My last few pieces all glued on there. They've had a chance to set a little bit. I've got my grout here in a jar and a little bit of cool water. I've got an instruction sheet included in the creative kit with all of the directions on mixing and applying your grout. So this is just going to be kind of a quick review. It says to add your powder into the water, but I've already got my powder in a jar. So I'm going to add my water into my powder, and it works just fine. I've done it once already. So I had to make sure I tested everything to see if I needed to change measurements or anything else, because we're working with such small amounts instead of the great big amount of a full jar. So I have about half of the amount of grout that is in your jar. So this is about a tablespoon and a half. So I'm going to add a half a tablespoon of water. Get it in there and give it a stir. It's going to seem a little bit watery at first, but that's okay. Grout is made to set up, so it's going to get harder and firmer, kind of like if you've ever worked with plaster of Paris or the mudding on a wall, like on a gyprock wall, kind of like that. So give it a really good stir. Get all of that water absorbed into your powder. And it says to mix for about 5 minutes, but I'm not going to do quite 5 minutes because we have such a small amount. So you can, because it's a glass jar, you can kind of check to see if there is any powder around any edges. You can use the end of a paintbrush, a popsicle stick. This is a chopstick that I'm using. So you can use just about anything to give it a good mix. So once you've got it all stirred up, let it sit for 10 minutes. Okay, so this has been sitting now for 10 minutes. It is not runny, it's nice and thick. So we're going to scoop it out and spread it over top of our mosaic using a soft scraper. Metal wouldn't be really good. I'm just using an old plastic card. It's nice and flexible, and it's going to be able to push all of our grout into the grooves. So I'm just going to scrape some of that out there. And just push it over top of all of our glass here, so it's into those grooves. And a little bit more. And just making sure all of those grooves are filled. If your grout is a little bit on the thicker side, then just make sure that you're pushing it into all of those cracks. Scraping over the top of the thing again. I'm just going to scrape off the excess because I don't need to drag that over my glass again. There we go. All right, and if you can, make sure that when you're washing all of your grout and stuff, that use a paper towel, get as much of the grout as you can into the garbage so it doesn't go down your drain. So now we're going to leave this for 20 minutes to let it set even more. And then we're going to just kind of give it a little wipe to get some of that grout that's sitting on top of the glass wiped off. And I already have one that I've done, so I'm going to skip the waiting time now. And this is my other little guy that did this with grandma tonight. So you're going to take your damp sponge or damp cloth, and I have to find my damp area here. We'll make a damp area. There we go. Okay, so I want to wipe it off of my picture frame, and this is the sanded grout, so it, I find, is a little bit nicer to work with, easier to clean. So once I have a dirty spot, I'm just gonna give it a wipe. This one has been sitting for a little while, so I have to scrub a little bit harder, but it's not too bad at all still. You will get sandy grout kind of on the surface that you're working on, so keep that in mind. You can always put down an old tablecloth or newspaper, so you've got something to catch all of that sand. There. Okay, so I've gotten most of that extra grout off. It still needs a little bit of a polish, and that'll come on the end. There's also some instructions of what you can spray on it to give it an extra wipe and have it all complete. So it's going to sit now for about 24 hours until the grout is completely set and cured and holding our mosaic all together. But there you have it, a quick little tutorial on the glass mosaic creative kit. Take care.